And our worry was about what happened in Rwanda, to Radio Mille Collines, that fanned the flames of conflict in Rwanda, that actually pushed the agenda of the Rwandan genocide. But how can we, in our context, play different roles, even in such difficult and dangerous times? But I pray it helps us on how to negotiate this difficult bend as we go through this challenging period in the history of our nation. It has never happened before. It's happening for the first time. And so we must create something new, something different on how we move forward in what we do.
Meeting in Bafoussam from the 18th to the 20th of August 2019, the over 50 members of the Cameroon Community Media Network, CCMN, Northwest, West, Southwest and Littoral, under the umbrella of the Peace, Journalism and Conflict Transformation Project, assimilated knowledge on crisis reporting and conflict-sensitive journalism. The main facilitator of the 3-day workshop, Omar Songwe, outlines some keynotes at the end of the workshop.
The first highlight is the diagnosis of the communities affected by the crisis. For us as journalists to actually understand the affected communities is very critical. And the second highlight was understanding the response mechanism on the ground. Who are those on the ground providing relief? What are the actions the UN is taking? For us to understand the humanitarian principles and to know the UN system's functioning is critical, so that if we have to report on response, humanitarian response, we should know exactly what we are reporting on. And finally, the third highlight was looking at the role the media plays in linking these two these two communities, that's the affected community and those who are involved in the humanitarian response. So in all of this, we summed it up with looking at conflict-sensitive reporting and what are some of the tips that we as journalists should pay attention to. And we were privileged to get tips from a renowned journalist like Alex Crawford, who has covered not only the Cameroonian crisis and the Libyan crisis, but is specialized in crisis reporting and from conflict areas.
In his closing remark, the National Communications Secretary of the PCC, who equally doubles as the National Coordinator of the Peace Project, the Reverend Mokokombwe Thomas, beckoned on the media practitioners to be responsible in their reporting.
I understand the sacrifice you had to make for you to spend 3 days out of your stations. I know how busy our media organs are and our various associations, and how busy our schedules are. So for you to have spent time here, I'm sure it's because you thought there was something we could share, something that can better our work in our various areas. There is power in the word, and many people believe in what they hear on our various media organs. They take it hook, line, and sinker. And so the word can either make or mar our communities. The word can build or scatter. The word can heal and the word can kill. And so our hope and our dream and our wish is that after this, we would watch our words. As we walk amongst God's people, as we reach out to the various communities through our various media organs, through the work of our NGOs, that we may be able to build for the glory of God. In the time in which we are with our brothers and sisters in the bush, many displaced, many unnumbered, because oftentimes I say science arrogates too much to itself. Because when they give figures to exactitude, that is the fallacy of science. Because not everybody has been counted. So I prefer when we say we have about this number, of IDPs or about this number of persons who are in exile. And when science gives it with exactitude, there's a problem somewhere. So we have brothers and sisters who have not even been counted. Some are not even alive anymore, and we don't even know about them. And these people need our attention. They need their stories to be heard. They need the world to know what is happening to them. And we can be their mouthpiece. We can be their voice. We can drum up support for them. We can help them to live better wherever they are. So my prayer and hope is that when we go back to work after this, it should not be business as usual. That our hearts should be in what we do. And God, I'm sure, would bless us as we work and toil. You know, a journalist is not usually a very rich person, but he's a very popular person. And so use that voice that you have. An activist, use the voice that you have to be able to do their work to the best of your conscience and to the glory of the God that we serve.
I want to express hearty thanks to the main facilitator of this workshop on conflict-sensitive and crisis reporting, because it is coming in timely, especially as more than 80% of the journalists who attended this workshop came from the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, where we are currently experiencing the Anglophone crisis. And here in these two regions, we find ourselves caught in between different crisis situations where we are faced with the challenge of actually objectively report on different crisis situations and conflict-sensitive situations. But we thank God that Sir Omar Songwe has given us the appropriate techniques that at least can enable us to cover our different stories objectively and can equally enable us to also cover our reports amidst the security that reigns. Usually many people, especially the journalists, used to put themselves into the story and more often than not will act as supporters and not reporters. But here we have been reminded and actually told our roles to actually be professional in the way we execute or discharge our duties. So I'm very grateful that we are going back well equipped to make sure that at least as journalists we are at the forefront of bringing just the right information to the community.
What basically then is the difference between normal reporting our lives as journalists and as conflict-sensitive journalists? The difference lies in the fact that you go beyond informing, entertaining, educating the public to carry out activities that give them protection, which will not harm them, and your reporting as a conflict-sensitive journalist should be solution-oriented.
Given that most of the participants are based in the conflict-hit northwest and southwest regions, the workshop will act as a tool in their reporting.
I should say I'm generally impressed with this workshop because it's not only timing, but it's also very relevant in contexts like this, because conflict reporting has always been a problem, and unfortunately many journalists in Cameroon have not been opportune to undergo a course on this. So we find it very difficult on a daily basis to report on situations as they happen in the two English-speaking regions. To learn on how to effectively communicate or to pitch your reports in conflict reporting is very important, and I have to indicate that it will help me a lot. First, I will have to go and disseminate this information to my fellow colleagues, to my staff in the TV, and then I would also have to inculcate this in our editorial policy, because communicating peace and development would shape this country, but it will also help to calm tempers that is already flaring around. So we'll have to carve ourselves the niche of new communicators who are doing peace and journalism or peace and development in their reporting. So indeed, once again, it's a wonderful initiative and I appreciate it a lot.
We have been impacted with more knowledge on crisis reporting, especially reporting in a crisis zone like the Southwest region where I come from. You know, it's very difficult. So firstly, we have to know that we are able to identify ourselves boldly, like carrying press badges that will identify us boldly. Secondly, we should inform our colleagues when going to the field because we never can tell what may happen. Thirdly, we should be able to get authorization if necessary. And again, we should ensure that we are safe because reporting or being a journalist doesn't mean you cannot die in a crisis zone. So you should ensure that you are safe. Again, I learned more on data journalism. That was something that I had a very shallow idea about, but with the knowledge I've acquired here today, I'm able to understand how to collect and analyze data, especially in journalism, and again on how to treat certain data in journalism, be it the open or closed data. Moreover, I also learned on how to handle humanitarian stories, paying focus on the communities that have been affected or the communities that need humanitarian assistance and how to get actors relate with them. That's those involved in assisting this community. Learning more that will help me to boost up my career and in the practice of journalism.
We have been able to brainstorm. We have been able to have lessons that would improve on our performances as we practice in our profession. And so I want to say I am well loaded. This is not the first time we've had series of these trainings. So as we go back, we would shape our thoughts, shape the way we put our stories so that it goes a long way to also shape the society and, we have a better society.
The peace journalists are expected to use the skills gained at the workshop to contribute in the peace building process.